Good morning, everyone. In this video, we'll be discussing how the VMR screen data entry took place. I'll be demonstrating the data entry part. Let me share my screen. So the data entry is just a plain web-based software. So what you need to do is a very simple thing. You have to open a web dialog, and there you have to type in I B HAR Ibar cloud.com ibarcloud.com. Then you have to open the web page. This is the web page what opens. You have been provided with a user ID and password by the IBA team. Subsequently, you have to enter the user ID and password in these columns. As you can clearly see, user ID usually starts with the alphabets HC followed by a 4-digit number followed by 30 and 1. This is how usually the user ID is set in. The password will be provided to you by the IBA representative. So you need to log in. This is the IBA main page which will open once you log in. In this page, you can see the VMR studies ahead. Then you have several options. You have options like setup, culture register, pending submissions, support tracker. In these options, the first page is setup. In the setup page, once you click on the setup page, you can enter your center details, your coordinators, your PI name, all those information. As you can see, there's a setup key master and review. In this, you can type in the name of the principal investigator. You can also type in the name of co-investigators, co-principal investigators, the study coordinator from your institute. All those names you can fill in. These informations would be very crucial subsequently during the study. So these are the setup, primary setup page. Then this is the main page where you will be working around. This is culture register. Once you click on the culture register, it will open like this. So for all those centers which are actually linked through MILA, through YTech or their LIS, the basic AST data will come automatically to the system. Like this data is coming here. Once you open it, there's a date filter. Usually by default from our side, the date filter is put as a 7-day date filter. You can play around, you can change those date filter as you like. It is always 7-day period what we have defaulted, and starting from the most latest to the older ones. The data comes automatically here with the sample number, the hospital ID number, which is an anonymized ID. The patient's anonymous name is missing. As you can see, the age and gender is coming, and the information. Suppose those centers which are doing the manual entry, as in our case, many centers have agreed to do the manual entry. For them, as you can see, this is a top button here called new. What happens when you click on the new? You can do a new entry. Suppose I'm going to put a Vitec AST for some particular sample. So I click on the new. I'll enter these informations. You can enter the patient name, the age of the patient, the gender of the patient, the sample numbers, sample type. This de-identified patient ID number can be that any sample number what you enter. We have a very small software kind of thing in which the sample, once you enter the sample number, it will de-identify and give you a changed patient ID that can be entered here. If you do a manual entry, otherwise it will come directly, the de-identified number will come directly in the system. Then we have a sample type. This is very crucial. All of you can clearly see the sample type. What need to be entered is, we have various types of sample type. The sample type are various types like blood culture. Among blood culture, the sample subtypes are blood or bone marrow. If you get bone marrow, stem cells on all those samples, you mark it as bone marrow. Otherwise, the sample can be marked as blood. Among the other samples, we have exudate culture. Among exudate culture, the sample subtypes are ocular specimens, genital specimens, pus aspirate discharges, all sort of things are clubbed together, tissue bit and bone swab. You may have a doubt that why not I can't I enter a specific sample like it's a chest wall tissue or a leg biopsy tissue. Why these kind of specific information I can't enter? There's a simple answer to it. The whole purpose of filling this information is all those which are incorporated in this page are used for some or the other reason for the anti-diagram purpose. That is the sole goal of this filling information. You cannot analyze a discrete sample if you enter every time a manual entry of some sample type. It may look nice for the particular PDF report, but we cannot analyze it as an antibiogram. So sample must be categorized into specific types so that those specimen specific or syndromic antibiogram can be generated. Like all the ocular specimens are clubbed together, you can analyze all the ocular specimens. What is the antibiogram? Similarly, genital specimens are grouped together. All the pus aspirates, irrespective of from the site where they are obtained from, they must be clubbed together. All the tissue samples, irrespective of their site, if it's an exudate sample, must be clubbed together. Then only it's an analyzable data. The whole purpose of putting it is that it should be an analyzable data as far as filters of an enhanced antibiogram is concerned. We have separated wound swab from pus because wound swab, the significance is little on the lower side. We may have colonizers, we have contaminants often isolated as a wound swab. That's why we analyze the wound swab separately from pus aspirate and discharges. So as far as the study is concerned, you have to follow on these. Whatever tissue samples you get, you have marked it as sample subtype as tissue bit. All the pus samples together, genital specimens together, ocular specimens together, and all the swabs together. This is how you mark it. Going to the next of the sample, we have lower respiratory culture sample. In that, you can mark among these options. It can be a lavage sample, wash sample, ET aspirate, lung biopsy, mini bulk sample, protective specimen brushing, sputum, and tracheostomy secretions, or any other sample. If you get, you can mark it as an others. All the ENT and respiratory culture, upper respiratory culture samples are clubbed together. We have ear discharge, ear swabs, nasal swab, nasopharyngeal swab, throat swab. These are the entries you can do. If anything which is missing in this, you can mark it as an other sample. Other than this, we have a sterile fluid culture. Few of the sterile fluids will come in the drop down. The common ones, bile, CSF, pancreatic fluid, pericardial fluid, peritoneal fluid, pleural fluid, and synovial fluid. And we have a other body fluids. If you have any other fluid other than this, you can mark it as an other body fluid. Then we have stool culture. Among stool culture, you have stool, rectal swabs, or others. Among urine culture, you have midstream urine, catheterized urine, PCN, suprapubic aspirate, and others. You may claim that you have got a urine culture, but you don't know if the patient is catheterized, it's a catheterized urine sample or a midstream urine sample. If you don't know, you can mark any of it. But the important point is catheterized urine sample analysis should be kept separate as compared to the midstream urine sample as far as the antibiogram is concerned. So we have kept it separately. In case you lack the option, you don't know, being a lab, you don't know if it's a catheterized urine or a midstream urine, you can mark any one of them. The data will be little inaccurate as far as antibiogram is concerned. But okay, if you don't have the information, you can mark it as MSU or catheterized urine, whatever you want for your analysis. This test name column is not needed per se. As you can see, the important informations are marked as red asterisk. So only the red asterisk marked columns are compulsory to enter, and those will be utilized for the purpose of antibiogram. So must be filled. The test name is not important part. The facility name is only for those laboratories which cater for multiple hospitals, multiple healthcare facilities. They will have, once they feed the data to in their system, they can have a drop down that these are the various institutes, various healthcare facilities from which they cater the sample and the process, because antibiogram cannot be generated per se by a laboratory. If it caters samples or isolates from multiple healthcare facility, it can generate antibiogram individually for those healthcare facility from which it receives the isolates. That's why for those laboratory only centers, they'll have a drop down there to choose which isolate came from which of the hospital what they cater to. Again, clinician's name and clinician's contact number is not a compulsory option. If you don't have this option, don't have this data with you, no need to panic, no need to enter these. Admission date is a very crucial part for analysis of healthcare associated or community acquired antibiogram separately. So you must make some arrangements to find out the admission date either through the alias, or you can ask the clinicians to fill in the admission date in the requisition form, or whatever may be the workaround. But admission date is very crucial as far as this antibiogram purpose is concerned. Any sample which is received 48 hours after the admission date is considered as a healthcare associated infection sort of, and which comes within 48 hours from the admission date would be included as the community acquired isolate. It's not a very accurate way to go about, but for the antibiogram purpose, this is how the recommendation goes. That's why admission date and sample collection date information is very crucial. Sample collection date information is defaulted as the current date. Whatever day you are going to fill this entry, in that day would be defaulted here. Admission date you have to enter based on the best possible information you have. Now we have these specialties. This is very crucial because once you are going to prepare an enhanced antibiogram for which is facility specific or a location specific, these information are the most important because you can have a routine antibiogram in your setup, but you need to know what's for the medicine patients, what a hospital caters is not same as what surgery patients are there, what neonatology or child age patients are there. So that's why specialty specific antibiogram is a very crucial aspect, because every center has varied specialties. So as a compulsory for this study purpose, we have broadly categorized the specialties into 4 categories: medicine alliance, pediatric alliance, surgery alliance, and oncology and transplant alliance. Like all those departments, pulmonary medicine, nephrology, cardiology, medical gastroenterology, all these subjects are can be clubbed and marked as medicine alliance. Similarly, all those urology, neurosurgery, pediatric surgery, plastic surgery, all those departments can be marked as surgery alliance. Pediatric alliance, because there are specific age group population, their infections are different, their antibiotics which are required or used are totally different from an adult population. So we have categorized a separate specialty, pediatric alliance. All the neonatology and pediatric locations isolates can be marked under this. One more location we have created is Onco and Transplant Alliance, because they are a risk factor group. They are very important, very crucial immunocompromised risk factor group. So that's why separate analysis is very important for them, because they are the group in which antibiotics or antimicrobials are very commonly and very rampantly used. So that's why the rates of MDROs are often very high in these locations, plus they are immunocompromised. So in that case, we have created a separate group for its analysis. This is our grouping, but for the time being, for ease of your help, we have given the specialty. As you can see, these specialty are not red asterisk marked. So these are not compulsory to enter. If you want to generate an antibiogram on specific, like what is my cardiology antibiogram, what is my neurology antibiogram, what is my neurosurgery antibiogram. Suppose in case you want that specific data, not for the study purpose, for your own institute purpose, this information you can feed in. We have grouped some, like Medicine Alliance. We have, once you click on the Medicine Alliance, all the common Medicine Alliance subjects will pop up here. If it doesn't fit what is not entered here, you can mark it as an other, but all the major Medicine Alliance subjects, we have kept it in the drop downs. Medicine, nephro, MG, endocrino, dermatology, clinical immuno, cardiology, etc. Similarly, all the major surgery alliance departments are put into the drop downs. You can select from each of them whatever you want. Okay. This is specifically important if you want to generate antibiogram for specific facility in your center. It is not compulsory to fill these, as it is not red asterisk marked. If you mark it, you can go those correctly mark it, then you can get antibiogram specific for those locations easily. Another important, and this is a red asterisk marked column, is area type. Here you are asked to enter whether these belong to a critical care unit or ICUs, whether ward or OPD. So OPD, ward, and ICU patients you have to mark here, depending on. So accordingly, all those isolates antibiogram can be generated based on you want to know what is your ICU based antibiogram. So if you mark it correctly, these critical care units, then you can get an ICU specific antibiogram. Suppose you want to get a medicine ICU based. So if your broad specialty is marked as medicine and area type is marked as critical care unit, you will get is MICU data. So this is a very compulsory information. The area is not to be marked. It's, as you can see, this is not red asterisk mark. So this is don't need to enter the area. Purpose of ordering culture. Usually by default, it is for diagnostic purposes. As you all know, antibiogram need to be prepared only for clinical specimens, for clinical specimens or isolates for clinical purpose. Okay, but we can have samples from patient-based surveillance like rectal carriage or MRSS screening, or from other body side screening. We can have patient-based surveillance samples. We can have healthcare worker-based surveillance samples. We can have environmental surveillance samples. Usually for these three purposes, we don't put AST. But for suppose for some reasons you are asked for the AST report and you put on, you can enter those isolates here, so that those can be pooled up and you can have a data stored in your database, that how many surveillance samples you have done, how was the susceptibility in those surveillance samples. But for antibiogram purpose, we won't be including those samples. We'll be excluding those samples for analysis. What we'll be keeping is only what will be marked as diagnostic purpose from patients. Then you can also mark as an outbreak sample. Suppose you have one Burkholderia cynospatia isolate from a particular ICU, many isolate. You keep getting one or two or three. Then subsequent isolates, you can mark it as an outbreak sample, so that it will be feeding information that these are outbreak samples. Outbreak samples may or may not be included as an antibiogram data. So that decision you can take. Usually the outbreak isolates are excluded from the antibiogram, okay, because they shift your they alter your antibiogram data in a more resistant site. So this is the new entry. After you do the entry, you do the save, and the entry will be saved. For those centers which will get directly isolate from the Vitek or the Alias or the Myla, they have to click on this sample. There's a hyperlink here at the sample. Once you click on the sample, the page will open. The result page will open. When you do a manual entry from here, whatever you entered, and the moment you click on the save, the same data will start appearing in this main page. This is the main page of it. Here the data will be added up. If it came automatically, once you click on the sample, it will open as a new tab. These basic informations you can edit through this edit button. Once you click on this edit button, few of the information in this edit would have come directly, like the de-identified patient ID, the patient name, gender, male, all those information which you have entered in the Vitek or in the Alias, if it's integrated, these information will come directly here, but not all informations. Those informations like sample type, sample subtype, admission date, the specialties, the area type, all these informations minimum you have to enter every time. I'll repeat again. The sample type, sample subtype, admission date, dot specialty, and area type. These are the information minimum you need to enter every time for every isolate what comes directly from Vitek, or if you're entering doing a manual entry, you still have to enter it in the new. Once you save it, those information will be displayed here. Okay. Then the next part is this final informations. Bus the organism is entered from your side. So as you can see, once I entered the information and I saved it. Once I saved it, this page has come. File and information, final growth characteristics. This is for the manual centers. Once you have entered anything manually and saved it, this page will occur. Okay, what you have to do is now type in the name of the organism. Suppose I have got Staphylococcus aureus. I have typed in I have selected from the drop down Staphylococcus and I click on the add. The system will add Staphylococcus as well as it is showing Staphylococcus aureus is identified manually because I've typed in manually. The report is pathogen. This is group. This is CLSI group, CLSI breakpoint group, which on the basis of what group the breakpoint will be analyzed, what panel I'm using. So we have defaulted from GAM or Staphylococcus, the panel as P628. What is the method of identification? This is a rudimentary thing. No need to manually enter it. So don't concentrate much on it. For the time being, we have defaulted it to be a colony Malditov. But no, even if it's not Malditov in your case, it's not compulsory to enter. It's just for a field purpose. You can select on colony Malditov, colony Vitek, but it's not a compulsory thing. This will be defaulted by self, as you all know. If the result is consistent and consistent with correction, as far as the Vitek result is concerned, those results are reliable and they can use it subsequently for analysis. Suppose the result is inconsistent, those results are too unreliable to use. So you may have to repeat the Vitek or do additional testing. That's why this page will show you immediately whether the report is inconsistent, consistent with correction, and consistent. So if you see inconsistent here, then you have a prompt that you need to reconsider the analysis and do some additional testing or to repeat the Vitek. This is the list of antibiotic which will open up once you add the organism. Suppose the list doesn't come properly, or for suppose you enter a gram negative organism, like let me enter one gram negative organism for you. Let me enter Klebsiella aerogens. So I added one more organism. As you can see here, is still written as Staphylococcus aureus. What I need to do is I need to click on this Klebsiella aerogens here, so that so all the new organisms are adding as a different tab. This is one tab for Staph aureus. This is one tab for Klebsiella aerogens. A new organism I'll add, it will form in a new tab. So once I click on the new tab, the tab of Klebsiella aerogens has opened, as you can see. So we have defaulted the panel as AST N405. Suppose you are not using AST N405 AST card. You are using something else. You're still using 281. So what is the use of this panel? So the list of antibiotics, what comes here, is decided by this panel. So the default will be, if your system is connected to Vitek, the system will pick on what card was used in the Vitek and it will default it directly. Suppose it is not done directly, then you can manually change it. I changed it manually to 281 and then I clicked on the default breakpoint. So this list of antibiotics which are showing here will change as per the antibiotics which are available in N281. If I am using some other panel like 263 or 364, then I can default those and the antibiotic list will change based on what panel I'm using. Okay, this is very crucial because not even if all the panels are almost similar looking, but they are not exactly similar. So depending on what panel you're using, it is always wise to look for the panel what is displaying. You select, if it's not correct, the correct panel what you have used, change on the panel and click on the default breakpoint so that the list of antibiotics which are appearing here were defaulted based on what panel you are going to use. All the centers which are linked to Vitek, directly integrated to Vitek or through LIS, there is no process of entering these names manually. And inside the sample number, these organism list will be automatically added along with the MICs. These are the columns where Vitek MICs is supposed to come. Okay, you can clearly see we have an antimicrobial agent tab inside which the antibiotics have been marked. They are color coded. The first black ones are the first lines. Then we have green ones, which are the second lines. And then we have red ones, that is the restricted line. Before this antibiotic, there are these green colored, bluish green colored dots. If you hover around those, you can see the breakpoint which has fed into it. The MIC breakpoint, SIR breakpoints, the zone diameters. You can hover around. This is for information purpose. This is the breakpoint what we have entered using the updated CLSI and UCAST. So these breakpoints will be used to subsequently interpret the MIC results. These are the primary report. The primary report is defaulted as AST Vitek, the Vitek based MIC. If you're doing the manual entry, you have to type in the MICs in these places, like I've typed in 64. Like this, you may have to type in the results. This is one additional work you have to go through if you do a manual entry, because you may have the report in the Vitek, but you have to take a snapshot of it, take a printout of it, whatever piece is you, and you have to do the manual Vitek entry, MIC entry here in the screen. Okay, like this. If you're using, you're integrated to the system, in that case, all these MICs will be automatically coming in the system. Okay, you do not enter it these manually. This is the major part where manual entry versus integration helps. In most of the other systems, integration or manual entry are exactly same. The major part where the burden occurs is this MIC entry. This MIC entry, if you have 20-25 isolates, you have to do the manual entry for all these isolates. This may be a little tricky, little tedious for you. Otherwise, there are some errors of doing manual error also. You may type in a wrong MIC in wrong antibiotic. The interpretation may get affected because of that. You have to be a little vigilant if you do the manual entry at this stage. Otherwise, it will be defaulted from the LIS or VITEC, and no need to do any manual entry. Once you do the entry, you click on the interpret breakpoint. Once you click on the interpret breakpoint, the interpretation will take place. This is how the interpretation happened, as you can clearly see. Based on the breakpoints which are available here, the interpretation has occurred along with calculation of breakpoint to MIC quotient. As you can see, those which are susceptible, the breakpoint to MIC quotient was calculated. You all know the breakpoint to MIC quotient calculation. Then we have a secondary test panel also. Suppose your center does some additional test other than VITEC. If you do any disk diffusion test or in e-test, those reports also you can enter. By default, we have set it as a zone diameters. Many centers do VITEC testing as well as parallel disk diffusion. They can do the entry here. Suppose you don't do it regularly, but for doubt purpose, for doubtful cases, you want to do any manual entry or any secondary testing like disk diffusion, you can go around. Well, suppose I do a disk diffusion, and in this case, I got a 22 zone diameter. Then I click on the interpret. So the zone diameter is interpreted using the same breakpoint what has been provided here. Now we have a situation. I've just deliberately entered a value which is different for VITEC as well as the zone diameter. Suppose your VITEC results came which you think is little unreliable. You did a confirmatory test, be it e-test, be it a disk diffusion or some other test methodology. You got a discrepant results. Okay, then how to go about? We give you the freedom to decide what result you think is correct. You can either choose that I think the primary result is more reliable, so you can choose for the primary result, or I think that no, the secondary result is more reliable, I trust it more. So you can rover around and choose whether you want to go with the primary result or the secondary result. We need to change it here in the drop down and then save it. So if you do it, the system will take on the secondary result instead of the primary result, that is the VITEC result. Okay, this is how, if you are having any doubt, you can go around and change your interpretation. Now, what about, I'll show you some other features. As you can see here, the default breakpoint, interpret breakpoint, MIC guiding table options are there. Then we have an MDR, XDR analysis. I'll subsequently discuss this in different video. So as you can see, the secondary has been selected. So the VITEC result as resistant won't go for these isolate for levofloxacin. It will go as susceptible because I have marked it as a secondary result. Then some antibiotic specific comments, some intrinsic resistant comments, and some infection control advice comments are provided in this. This is just for information purpose, to give you a feel how a comment looked like, how a comment should go in a report. This has nothing to do as far as antibiogram is concerned, as far as this study is concerned. This is to give you a feel that what are the various comments that should go along with your report when you will be doing it in your setup, in your report. If you're not using IBAR as your system, you should include these comments, these antibiotic intrinsic resistant infection control advice or organism specific comment in these. Then you can see the MIC guiding table. Once you click on the MIC guiding table, it will pop up and show you a MIC guiding table, how it looks like. So I'll make a separate video for MIC guiding table, but it has antibiotic list, along with susceptible, intermediate, and resistant breakpoints. And the MIC, the test MIC, whatever has come, has been marked as a square to denote that this is your MIC. The farther your box is from this yellow line or from the susceptible breakpoint, the better the breakpoint to MIC quotient and more efficacious the drug is, considering the, if you take into consideration the cascade reporting part. So this is how it looks like, the MIC guiding table. This is just again for a field purpose, for your knowledge purpose. So you see how a MIC guiding table looks like. Then we have a MDR, XDR, and PDR analysis per isolate. This once you click on this XDR, it will pop up how the MDR XDR analysis has been done. I'll do a separate video to make you understand how these analysis is done. But once you click, you can have the MDR XDR PDR analysis right on each isolate. You can click on this view report to get a feel of how the report, an ideal report, should go to the clinician. This is not nothing to be sent, like you are not sending the report to the clinicians or generating any PDF out of it until unless you are subscribing the IBAR for your patient-based reporting. As far as study is concerned, you are just going to see and have a feel of how the report looks like. Okay, so this is the PDF how a report is generated, the culture report, the basic information, then the organisms, the susceptibility, whatever you have entered, the comments, the various comments like antibiotic comment, invasive resistant comment, other form filling based comments, etc. This is how it reports. The reports would go to the clinician. Once for the study part, once you have done the entry, and the entry is not full, you have done only partial entry, you need not submit it for now. What you can do is do the partial entry and click on the save. This is for temporary saving purpose. You can click on the save, and the data whatever you have entered so far will get saved. Suppose saving is okay, but you want to submit it, the data, so you can submit the data at incomplete as well as complete stages. We have the functionality of sending the data multiple times from the same isolate. So when you click on the submit button, the data will be thrown to the antibiogram. Suppose I have done partial entry, I have not done full entry in the sample, then what will happen? The result will go as partial. The result will go as partial, and it will be displayed in this, the top of the culture register. It will be displayed here. How many results I have submitted as partial, means some or the other columns are empty in it. So this is those samples or results will be marked as partial because you have not completely filled it. If all the results are marked as blue tick, these are the blue tick, means these are okay for the antibiogram purpose. If everything is blue tick, then the result will go as submitted, and it will be showing here. The counts will be showing here. Well, either the result, when you submit on the button, click on the submit button, either it will go as a final submitted or it will go as a partial submitted. Why this segregation is there? Why we have kept two icons here? Because suppose you have partially authorized some report, some of the antibiotic results are pending, like you're doing a confirmatory test for colistin or something like that, then subsequently you can click here and go to those partially submitted report, do the pending antibiotic data, and then resubmit it. So you can have a staged wise submission to antibiogram also. So that's why the submitted and partial separate icons are being displayed here. So this was the entry part, the basic entry part of the report. So I'll be holding on this sharing now. Subsequent part of the analysis and subsequent description, I'll be making a separate video. So thank you for listening. And now I'm stop sharing and I'm stopping the recording part also.